Well, good morning to everyone, and we'll begin with our chanting and meditation. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, Beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, Saints of all religions, Beloved Swamiji, we humbly bow to you all. Divine Mother, fill us with your joy, a joy to share with all souls everywhere. We are your very own. Reveal thyself. Reveal thyself. Om Shanti Shanti. Night has grown, dawn has come. Wake, my children, wake. Wake, my children, wake. Sitting in the asana of meditation, sitting in the asana of meditation, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet. Night has flown, dawn has come. Wake, my children, wake. Wake, my children, wake. In the asana. Night has flown, dawn has come. Wake, my children, wake. Wake, my children, wake. Sitting in the asana of meditation, sitting in the asana of meditation, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet. Night has flown, dawn has come. Wake, my children, wake. Wake, my children, wake. Sitting in the asana of meditation, sitting in the asana of meditation, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet, thinking of thy Guru's lotus feet, thinking of thy Guru's. Now we'll have our fire ceremony. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varuniya. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayato. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayato. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayato. Om Bhurbhuvah Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah prachodayatu. Om Bhurvuvasvaha Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayatu. Om Bhurvuvasvaha Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayatu. Om Bhurvuvasvaha Swaha. Om Tatsavitu Varniyam. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Nah Prachodayatu. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Rityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Brityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Brityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Brityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Brityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Brityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivaranam Urvarukamiva Vandanam Brityo Mokshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Swaha. Om Swaha. Om Swaha. Om Shanti. We'll now have our chanting invitation. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, be thou mine, be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine, Ramaino, Viramahini, Ramaino, Viramahini, I am thine, I'm thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Viramaino, Viramahini, Ramaino, Viramahini, I am thine, I am thine. Viramaino, Viramahini, Ramaino, Viramahini, I am thine, I am thine. Viramaino, Viramahini, Ramaino, Viramahini, I am thine, I am thine. Heaven, joy, 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 heaven, joy, 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 heaven, joy, 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 heaven, joy, 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 heaven, joy, 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 heaven, joy, joy, joy. Joy, 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 hallelujah. 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 Joy, 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 hallelujah, joy, 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 hallelujah, joy, 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 hallelujah, joy, 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 hallelujah, joy, 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 hallelujah, joy, 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 hallelujah, joy,
Have an affirmation now, reading from Swamiji's Affirmations for Self-Healing. And the affirmation this morning is on joy. True joy is not an emotional state. It is not that which one feels when some desire is satisfied or when everything at last goes well. It is inward. It is of the soul. It can be developed first by not reacting emotionally to outward things. Don't be tossed on alternating waves of success and failure. Don't join in their excitement, the buyers and sellers in the marketplace of this world. Be calm in yourself, even-minded, and cheerful through the gains and losses of life. Then, in deep, calm meditation, feel the joy of the soul. Hold on to that joy through all activities. Don't confine it, but try ever to expand it until your little joy becomes the joy of God. Please close your eyes and affirm after me with a lot of energy, concentration at the point between the eyebrows. You can do this out loud or inwardly. I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. And now a little more quietly with deep concentration. I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. Now in a whisper, I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. And now silently, at the point between the eyebrows, I am even-minded and cheerful at all times. I know that joy is not outside me, but within. And now pray silently with me. Divine Mother, in the calmness of meditation, at the heart of my inner peace, help me to feel thy thrilling, joyful presence. Shanti, Shanti.
And once again, good morning and welcome to our Sunday Satsang here in Bangalore. We will begin reading from Yogananda's Whispers from Eternity entitled Endless Thrills of Delight. I attune my life with thine. Now my life has become a long, unbroken inspiration. Thy fountain of bliss refreshes and delights me night and day, whether I be wakeful, fast asleep, or dreaming fondly of thee. Oh, what has become of me? Delight on overwhelming delight. Endless, indescribable thrills of divine light spray unceasingly over me. O aged wine, O aged nectar, wine of centuries, I found thee at last, and will taste of thy sweetness forever, forever, forever. And this reading is from the autobiography of a yogi, drawn from the chapter Years in My Master's Hermitage. But before the reading, to set the stage, Paramahansa Yogananda with his friend Yatindra have gone up to Benares to be in an ashram. And as it turned out, Master was very, very keen on meditating long hours. And this was not really all that acceptable to the others in the ashram. And they began to be upset with him. And so Yogananda was finding day by day that this experience here at this ashram was becoming quite uncomfortable. And so one particular time he was meditating and he was called upon by the other ashramites to do an errand. And so again, reluctantly, he left his meditation room and went down and began to go there in the streets of Benares and get the various things that were needed. And that, as Divine Mother worked out was where he met Sri Yukteswar. Sri Yukteswar was visiting his mother for a couple of days. He was there at his ashram normally in Srirampur or down in Puri. And this meeting between guru and disciple, described in the autobiography of a yogi, was truly thrilling. And they gave each other their unconditional love. But as it worked out, it ended in a seeming sour note when Sri Yukteswar said that he wanted Yogananda to return to Kolkata. And Yogananda said, absolutely not, because Ananda, his elder brother, which in many ways acted like his second father, basically predicted that he would spend some time in meditation and seeking God, but then he would come home and live in the security of the family nest. And Yogananda did not want Ananta again to ridicule him if he were to come home. And so he told Sri Yukteswar no, he would not return. And so he spent an additional month in that ashram in Benares. And it was getting, again, more and more tense until finally he thought, okay, I need to return. And Sri Yukteswar had predicted that he would return when they had had that first meeting to the ashram. And so we began. You have come. Sri Yukteswar greeted me from a tiger skin on the floor of a balconied sitting room. His voice was cold, his manner unemotional. Yes, dear master, I'm here to follow you. Kneeling, I touched his feet. How can that be? You ignore my wishes. No longer, Guruji. Your wish shall be my law. That is better. Now I can assume responsibility for your life. I willingly transfer the burden, master. My first request then is that you return home to your family. I want you to enter college in Kolkata. Your education should be continued. Very well, sir. I hid my consternation. Would books pursue me down the years? First father, and now Sri Yukteswar? Someday, you will go to the West. Its people will lend ears more receptive to India's ancient wisdom if the strange Hindu teacher has a university degree. You know best, Guruji. My gloom departed. The reference to the West I found puzzling, remote, but my opportunity to please Master by obedience was vitally immediate. You will be near me in Kolkata. Come here whenever you find time. Every day, if possible, Master. Gratefully, I accept your authority in every detail of my life, on one condition. Yes, that you promise to reveal God to me. An hour-long verbal tussle ensued. A master's word cannot be falsified. It is not lightly given. The implications in the pledge open out vast metaphysical vistas. A guru must be on intimate terms indeed with the Creator before he can obligate him to appear. I sensed Sri Yukteswar's divine unity and was determined as his disciple to press my advantage. You are of exacting disposition. Then Master's consent rang out with compassionate finality. Let your wish be my wish. Master used to tell really an outrageous story. There's many stories, of course, as we know on the spiritual path that in some ways are just quite amazing, so very dramatic. And this is one of them. And it was a disciple, very sincere, that was an alcoholic. And so somehow, some way, he became a Kriyavan, and yet he was still addicted to drink. And so he came up with really what was an ingenious plan. And it was simply that knowing that the grip of alcohol was so strong in him, but that he knew that if he could pursue in attuning himself to Guru especially and practicing his Kriya, somehow through a miracle, he would be able to thrust out this habit that he had had for so many years. And so he would do a few Kriyas, and then, extraordinary as it sounds, he would take a drink of his whiskey that was there beside him, then a few more Kriyas, and then another drink of whiskey, until finally, through God's grace, the intoxication of Kriya became more than the intoxication of whiskey. And he was able to give up alcohol then forever. Swamiji, Master, these great ones, give us again and again shortcuts to how to grow spiritually. And one of them is simply this. As Master said, if you're focused in a direction of a bad habit, then simply focus in the opposite direction. That's it. And so one of the classic stories from Ananda is one of our head monks many years ago. This was Nitai. He was my head monk. And so he had a hard time. We would get up very early in the monastery there in Ananda village in California. And he found it difficult. And so he came up again with an ingenious idea. And it was simply that when the alarm went off, and his desire, of course, was to just shut it off and sleep some more, he would turn on his flashlight and throw it across the floor. And this then was going to be a dilemma for him, because the batteries would be worn down, and this was something he didn't want. And it was not easy. Ananda village can get very cold, and it's a snowy region in the wintertime. And so because he would be fretting about these flashlight batteries going down, then he would get up and turn off the flashlight. Then he'd be out of bed and ready to go. And so for us, really, it's a matter of appreciating that some of these habits that we have, they are strong. And there's no question the grip that they have upon us. And yet, all we have to do is to find something better to replace them. And so we don't have to be putting all this energy out in being perhaps upset and frustrated and all these things that do absolutely nothing for us except draw our energy and our consciousness down, but just find something better. And it can be something, very, very simple, that if again, oversleeping is an issue for us and so on, then we think, well, let me get up a little bit earlier because I just love tending the garden. And let's see how they're doing. Maybe they need some more water, maybe some weeding and so on. Something so simple. And yet we find, because that's something that is close to our heart, our gardening, then pretty soon, then that desire for sleep, as Yogananda called sleep counterfeit samadhi, begins bit by bit to taper off, because we just love working in the garden. My brother, who was really an expert gardener, he would say to his wife, well, it was morning, I'll head out and be a few hours in the garden. Again and again and again, he would lose himself all day long, I'm not exaggerating, into nightfall, because the experience just took him over, because it was one of the loves of his life. His wife would have to go find him in the dark sometimes there in the garden. And so for us, we can find little things. That's certainly a start. If you want to take part in a building project, let's say building a house, the recommendation is don't start there. Start with making a birdhouse. And then once that's all finished, then a dog house and so on. And so it is on the spiritual path. Swami one time just burnt himself out by meditating all day long into the night. He was just determined to go into a state of super consciousness. But at the end, he had to finally appreciate that he wasn't, quite up to that level. And so he had to say, okay, I guess super consciousness will have to wait for another day. And he found very interestingly, because really, to some extent, this drive, although a noble drive, was also filtered with ego. And so he said he was many months then not being able to go deep, because basically he had, in a way, kind of burned himself out. And so he learned a needed lesson of moderation, one step at a time. And so when we give the Kriya initiation, we don't say to people, though it's recommended to meditate, do your 108 Kriyas twice a day. No. Master said, do 14 Kriyas to start with, and then build up over time. And so we want to find ways to replace those things that are drawing our consciousness down, to rise to the occasion, because it's all about constantly lifting our consciousness. We know that because we have an inner life all day, every day. That is the task. And that is the highest thing, that's the highest duty that we've been given. Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all of these things shall be added unto you. Keeping our consciousness at the point between the eyebrows, keeping our consciousness here, centered in the heart. And so bit by bit, as we find the energy beginning to, the spiritual energy beginning to grow and to flow up, and we're spending more time naturally in our upper chakras and all, we begin to really think the impossible, and it's not impossible, and that's freedom. And we begin to appreciate that because we've come out of God, this is not a foreign state, that we're just dreaming. And when the great ones, Master and Swami and the saints, say that we should go after God and find Him this lifetime, then we can begin to appreciate that though we think, me, how could I, possibly in my present state of consciousness take that leap, which appears to be a leap to the moon, to the state of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. We have to cast that thought aside with real strength and determination, because God comes like a thief in the night, and we don't know when He's going to come, but we do know that self-effort draws grace. When St. Anthony, this great saint in Northern Africa, spent his time many years in a tomb meditating, and finally, when he was tested by the devil, Christ appeared. And Anthony cried out, "Where have you been? I've been yearning for you for so many years." And what did Christ say with sweetness, love, and compassion? "Anthony, I was always with you." And so it was true. And then he was awakened from this dream, no longer bound by the Maya. And so for us, it really is a matter of relaxing. So simple, and yet a challenge too. Relaxing into our higher self, relaxing into our soul, relaxing into the Guru and Divine Mother's arms. Because with that, then bit by bit, these habits, these bad habits, which are just filled with tension and troubles and worry, they begin to fall away because we found something better. That's why this reading from Whispers from Eternity is so extraordinary. Master said, when I'm gone, then read. I will speak to you through my whispers from eternity. And so here in this reading, thrill after thrill, this endless, unbroken inspiration, that's our destiny. And we're getting bits and pieces of it now. If we didn't, then who could continue to persevere on the spiritual path? Because there's many tests. all these karmas of the past, the present that need to be released. They test us. And that's just our own karma. The mass karma tests us too, as we certainly are experiencing these days. And so we have to really keep that goal in mind. This is what Gyanamata Yogananda's most advanced disciple shared with the disciples again and again and again. God alone, that was the sign that she held above her door. And when Gyanamata passed, what were the words that she uttered? Too much joy, too much joy. And Master saw her then sink into what he called the watchful state, that state of bliss, that state where she was no longer going to be tested. She left as a free soul, no more karma, no karma on the material plane, the astral or the causal plane. All her karma was done. And it was not an easy life, because for the last 20 years of her life, and she passed when she was in her 80s, she was suffering. Was she suffering for herself? Well, perhaps a little. But primarily, she was helping Master work out the disciples' karma, because she had gone beyond attachment to her body, personality, all of these things. She was wedded in spirit. And when she passed in 1951, Master said, now that Gyanamata is gone, his beloved sister, he said that it wasn't going to be much longer, that he too would be leaving this world. And it wasn't just a short number of months, and he too passed. And so with these great saints as sterling examples of what we need to aspire to, we need to appreciate that if these saints weren't in our lives, we would really, really be, who knows, days and nights of Brahma seeking God, because the Maya is so strong. But with these saints, they're awake. And they tell us with complete 100% confidence that we too are gods. And yet, sleeping gods as it is, we have work to do, but they will help us. And they do. And they come back again and again and again to do just that, because they don't have to come back to this plane. This is a real workout. As we well know, every single day there's these challenges that we have, but the joy is growing. And we see that in ourselves. We see that especially in one another. And as we cluster together and the magnetism grows in spiritual family, we feel that, as I said years ago when I had a huge project before me that Roma and I were working on, this mantra came just spontaneously, and I needed it at that time because it was a big project and lasted numbers of years. This is doable with joy. And it's an affirmation to this day that comes to me from time to time, and I always appreciate it because it played such an important part during that particular project. This is doable with joy. And so we need to spend much time, as Master himself said, I spend a lot of my time in the astral world. And so we need to spend time with Babaji in our meditations. There he is in the Himalayas with that select group of disciples sharing his light in abundance. These great ones, they're the ones. There's so much talk about balance these days. They are the ones that keep this world on its axis. Otherwise, it would fly off into space or be blown to smithereens by all of the crazy, crazy things that are going on in this world. Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. As I was sharing with a friend, if we worry about what might be coming our way, Master said he'd be back in a couple hundred years. And so he's not going to be coming back to an ash heap. He's going to be coming back to this world, this beautiful world Mother Earth, where so many, many blessings are coming from these great ones. And so for us, it's very important. Take the story to heart of this tried and true disciple, an alcoholic. But he had his faith in Guru and he had his faith in Kriya. And so he was able to put aside a incredible vice that grips many people and creates tremendous chaos in their lives. But he had the great good karma to know that this too shall pass. This habit was not him. A lot of people do themselves a grave injustice by thinking, this habit is me. These things are not us. Not for a moment. We're not a body, we're not a personality, we're not these habits, we're not this karma. What did Master say about karma? Learn to outwit your karma. We're none of these things. We need to identify, and that's why meditation is so important, because every time we meditate, whether it's a busy meditation or a deep meditation blessed by gurus, we find that we are tasting once more of reality. And what is that reality? That reality is joy. And that joy protects us. We must have that joy. We must have that peace. We must have Divine Mother's presence as contentment. We must be secure in her arms. And so more and more, that is our experience. And that's why, again, as Master said at the end of the autobiography of the yogi, Lord, thou hast given this monk a large family. How was he able to grow such a large family? Because people with a great good karma were able to recognize that he was a soul intoxicated with God, intoxicated. And that is an experience that more and more will come to us. And that's why when we talk with people, we say, have you read the autobiography of a yogi? And so often, they've either read it, they are presently reading it, or it's on their shelf and they want to read it. And this book really, of course, it changed Swamiji's life forever. And it's changed our lives too. We find that this great, great gift, this autobiography of a yogi, is really, really making an incredible impact in this world. And that's a blessing, a deep blessing that we can't really fathom right now, perhaps, but it really is powerful because, as Master said to Swami, when Swami first met him back in 1948, and Swami said, I loved your autobiography of a yogi. And Master said, that's because it has my vibrations. And Swami didn't know with his scientific upbringing what that meant. He had to meditate on that. But of course it meant it was filled with Master's love, his life, and his joy. And so attunement, that's everything. And as Gyanamata said, if I were to give to you, speaking through the disciples, one thing, I would give you right attitude. Because with right attitude, then we are willing to, again, as the yogis say, what comes of itself, let it come. We're willing to, as Master recommended, meet each test pleasantly. And so we find, with the right spirit, with the right attitude, with determination, with strength, and growing attunement, bit by bit, step by step, we are finding God. And the joy of it is that we're in God already. God bless you. Now we will have our party. Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai 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 Jai Ram.
Now we'd like to invite those of you who'd like to receive the blessings of the Masters to offer a prayer of gratitude to the infinite Christ, in whose love our line of Masters have descended, that we might all come to God. Pray too for the grace to share with all as you have received, for you are a part of all that is. May the light of the great Master shine upon you. Oh. Shanti, shanti, shanti. Now let's close with a healing prayer. Visualize all those souls that we know of who are in need of healing energy in their bodies, their minds, and their souls. All those we know and all those we don't know. All those who have asked for our prayers and those who are seeking help from God all over the world. Bless this planet, bless this universe with the joy of God. May every soul experience that joy in a deep way in this moment as we pray. Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent, thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence and joy in souls everywhere. Oh. Shanti, shanti. Go out with joy. Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
I just have a few announcements. This week is the beginning of Spiritual Renewal Week. And this is a week that has been an annual event every year since Ananda started. It's a beautiful celebration of the teachings. And we have wonderful speakers every day, Jyotishan Devi and many, many others, the center leaders from around the world, and wonderful speakers every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's also a kirtan Sunday night, I believe, as an orientation, and there's meditations every day. So it's all going to be online, and it will be, I've asked Harish to send people the link. It costs 900 rupees for the week. If you can't afford that, you can let me know, and I can give you a password that will lighten your load. So just let me know and I'll send the password. I don't want to send it out to everybody because then I'll get in trouble, which would be my instinct, but I don't want to get in trouble. So anyway, it's 900 rupees and it's well worth every rupee. It's such a beautiful experience. So as many of us can participate in this, it would be wonderful. Also, what else? Anything else? We have many classes this week. We have level 1s, 2s, 3s. We also have level 4s coming up. And in a couple of weeks, we also have Jyotish and Devi. We'll be here hosting them in Bangalore for the conversations with Jyotish and Devi. And this is my plea. I haven't received any yet, so you're going to be sorry if we have our conversations with Jyotish and Devi and there are no questions. So it'll be embarrassing for Bangalore if we don't have any questions, and we'll just sit there and I'll have to make up all the questions and you might get mad at me because they're the wrong questions. So meditate a little, think of a question you would like to ask Jyotish and Devi. They will try to answer it. And the subject of our satsang is going to be Masters and Swamiji's vision for spiritual communities in the world during this age. It's going to be a wonderful topic and one that is very relevant to all of us in Bangalore right now, because we are trying to take our next steps into building that spiritual community in the vision of Master and Swamiji, how they want to do it. So please send your questions, and that's all I know. Does anybody have anything else that I've forgotten? Probably have. We almost got somebody to come to the center today to be with us at the satsang. Almost. We were so thrilled. Neha called and said, "Can I come?" I said, yes, come. So we were going to have a real body here in the center for our satsang. And then she called me late last night and said, the lockdown is still on and I don't want to get arrested because of the checkpoints, so I can't come. So it was a letdown. One of these days, we'll have everybody back and we won't have those letdowns anymore. So anyway, nice to see you this morning, Neha, online again.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was a good try.
It was a good try.
Very soon we should be able to be
Very
there.
We were waiting for the choir to take off.
Oh, no.
I'm afraid it's going to be a duet for a couple of weeks. I keep trying to talk Haridas into being the other part of the duet, but I don't want to do a solo. So anyway, we'll work on it.
This master said he was in, for the long haul. And so that's the choir in Bangalore. We know it's going to happen, but we're in it for the long haul. And so one of these fine days, the guitar will appear, the flute will appear.
The tablas.
The tablas, all of these various things. And wow, we'll be able to give a concert like a CC gave, to Ananda International. But anyway,
Absolutely.
There you go, Neha. Very good. Absolutely. There it is.
But one time, I have to tell this story. We were in Gorgan and Swami was sitting right there in the front row. And Dharmini decided it would be a wonderful thought to have Haridas and Roma do a duet in front of Swami and everybody, which we didn't think it was such a good idea, but she thought it was great. So we started singing this song, one of Swami's songs, and all of a sudden, I'm singing a solo, and he's not singing at all. So I looked at him, And I had to keep going and going, and Swami's eyes were like this, and oh my God, I was so embarrassed. And he just, I don't know what you were
I had
doing.
learned
Yeah, oh,
it was just a momentary flash of laryngitis. I think that was it. I don't recall, perfectly.
and then at the end, Swami said, "Thank you very much, Roma, for the solo." Very embarrassing. So anyway, I keep trying to get him to do the other part of the duets.
Well, I'm going to tell you, here's the backstory. Years ago, Swami started a little group. It was called the Gandharvas. And we would go all over and sing. Well, I, as a tenor, was in between two master tenors, Lakshman and
Agni.
and Agni. Beautiful voices, played magnificent guitar. And so for me, I was just, riding on this wave. And the habit is so strong now that, again, that explains why Roma did a solo, because Agni and Lakshman weren't flanking me and basically holding me up. So that's not much of an excuse, but that was what was my experience for many years. It was such a privilege to be with the Gandharvas, especially with those two, because they were real.
Okay, well, I hope everyone has a wonderful Sunday, and we'll see you Thursday, right?
Absolutely.
Thursday.
Okay, yes. What?
Any other? Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, have a good rest of your afternoon.